channel. Sorry. Oh, I hate this light. Oh, I don't like that one either. There you go. Okay, that's better. It's a thunderstorm outside, and I was just going to start this video about 35 minutes ago. I clicked on this and I said, hello everyone, welcome back, and then and the power went out. So it just came back on about 5 minutes ago, and then I had to reboot the computer and all the fun stuff. So this is Epic History TV. This is World War I, 1915. We started with 1914, so this is part 2. There's 5 parts that goes year by year. But before we get started, we have to talk about the YouTube gathering that took place. We decided to have the world's longest slip and slide, but somebody forgot to bring they wanted to put like Crisco. Forgot to bring it. Instead, they brought honey. So they were throwing honey down. People were coating themselves in honey and sliding it. There's no slick feel with honey. You just kind of hit it and skid. You just kind of bloop, 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 and it wasn't very good. And it was a terrible idea to do it in Yellowstone. So there were bear attacks all over the place. We lost a lot of good people. So anyways, like and subscribe. I was at 101, and then I dropped to 99, and now I'm back up to 100. So again, 100 subscriber giveaway. I'm going to allow you to buy your own PlayStation 5 and then credit me for purchasing it for you, because I'm not going to, but I will take the credit. So now that that's out of the way, loud ass birds out there. Okay, let's get on with this video.
January 1915. World War I is just 5 months old, and already around 1 million soldiers have fallen. A war that began in the Balkans has engulfed much of the world. The Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, fight the Allies, Britain, France, Russia, Serbia and Montenegro, Belgium, and Japan. In Poland and the Baltic, the Russian army has suffered a string of massive defeats, but continues to battle German and Austro-Hungarian forces. Austro-Hungarian troops have also suffered huge losses and are humiliated by their failure to defeat Serbia. In the Caucasus Mountains, Russian and Ottoman forces fight each other in freezing winter conditions. While on the Western Front, French, British and Belgian troops are dug in facing the Germans, in trenches stretching from the English Channel to Switzerland. As part of the world's first strategic bombing campaign, Germany sends 2 giant airships known as Zeppelins to bomb Britain. They hit the ports of King's Lynn and Great Yarmouth, damaging houses and killing 4 civilians. At sea, at the Battle of Dogger Bank, the British Navy sinks 1 German cruiser, but the rest of the German squadron escapes.
Wow.
Command of the
792 crew. Wow.
seas has allowed Britain to impose a naval blockade of Germany, preventing vital supplies, including food, from reaching the country by sea. Germany now retaliates with its own blockade. It declares the waters around the British Isles to...
Hey Sam, if you watch this, what was going on in the Netherlands during this period? Was there, I mean, obviously they're neutral right now, they're not wanting to get involved, but was there a lot of fear that they were going to be trampled on and or somehow invaded just because?
be a war zone, where its U-boats will attack Allied merchant ships without warning. Britain relies on imported food to feed its population. Germany plans to starve her into surrender. On the Eastern Front, German Field Marshal von Hindenburg launches a winter offensive and inflicts another massive defeat on the Russian army at the Second Battle of Masurian Lakes. The Russians lose up to 200,000 men, half of them surrendering amid freezing winter conditions.
Okay.
The Russians have more success against Austria-Hungary. The city of Przemysl falls after a 4-month siege, netting the Russians 100,000 prisoners. Austria-Hungary's total losses now reach 2 million.
See what I'm saying about the numbers? How they just 200,000 surrendered here, 2 million casualties here. So, I mean, the numbers are outrageous. Just outrageous. I know it's obviously it's a world war, but man, it's hard to comprehend just like 2 million losses in less than, I mean, this is March. It started in what? June, July, something like that. I mean, it's not long at all.
Meanwhile, the British and French send warships to the Dardanelles to threaten Constantinople, capital of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. They believe a show of force will quickly cause Turkey to surrender. They bombard Turkish shore forts in the narrow straits, but 3 battleships are sunk by mines and 3 more damaged. The attack is called off.
Sorry. The start date of World War I was July 28th, 1914. And that one with Austria-Hungary said by March of 2015. So if you go August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, you're talking 8 months. 8 months, and they alone lost 2 million people. I have to sneeze.
On the Western Front, the British attack at Neuve-Chapelle. But the advance is soon halted by German barbed wire and machine guns. British and Indian units suffer 11,000 casualties, about a quarter of the attacking force. 6 weeks later, at the Second Battle of Ypres, the Germans attack with poison gas for the first time on the Western Front. A cloud of lethal chlorine forces Allied troops to abandon their trenches. But the Germans don't have enough reserves ready to exploit the advantage.
Oh.
Soldiers on both sides are quickly supplied with crude gas masks, as a chemical weapons arms race begins. The Allies land ground troops at Gallipoli, including men of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, the Anzacs. Their goal is to take out the shore forts that are preventing Allied warships reaching Constantinople. But they immediately meet fierce Turkish resistance and are pinned down close to the shore. The day before the landings, the Ottoman Empire begins the systematic deportation and murder of ethnic Armenians living within its borders. The Armenians are a long-persecuted ethnic and religious minority, suspected of supporting Turkey's enemies. Tens of thousands of men, women and children are transported to the Syrian desert and left to die. In all, more than 1 million Armenians perish. The Allies condemn the events as a crime against humanity and civilization, and promise to hold the perpetrators criminally responsible. To this day, the Turkish government disputes the death toll, and that these events constituted a genocide. On the Eastern Front, a joint German-Austro-Hungarian offensive in Galicia breaks through Russian defences.
There's a lot of red in all those flags. Red, green, white, red, white, blue, red, white, black, red, green, and white. I mean, red and white are pretty predominant.
Recapturing Przemysl and taking 100,000 prisoners. It is the beginning of a steady advance against Russian forces. At sea, the British passenger liner Lusitania, sailing from New York to Liverpool, is torpedoed by a German U-boat off the coast of Ireland without warning. 1,198 passengers and crew perish, including 128 Americans. US President Woodrow Wilson and the American public are outraged. But Germany insists the liner was a fair target, as the British used her to carry military supplies. In May, the Allies launched the Second Battle of Artois, in another effort to break through the German lines. The French make the main attack at Vimy Ridge, while the British launch supporting attacks at Aubert Ridge and Festubert. The Allies sustain 130,000 casualties and advance just a few thousand yards. That summer, above the Western Front, the Fokker Eindecker helps Germany win control of the air. It's one of the first aircraft with a machine gun able to fire forward through its propeller, thanks to a new invention known as interrupter gear. Allied aircraft losses mount rapidly in what becomes known as the Fokker Scourge. Italy, swayed by British and French promises of territorial gains at Austria-Hungary's expense, joins the Allies, declaring war on Austria-Hungary and later the Ottoman Empire and Germany. The Italian army makes its first assault against Austro-Hungarian positions along the Isonzo River, but is repulsed with heavy losses. Meanwhile, the Allies face a crisis on the Eastern Front. The Russians have begun a general retreat, abandoning Poland. German troops enter Warsaw on the 5th of August. Tsar Nicholas II dismisses the Russian army's commander-in-chief, Grand Duke Nicholas, and takes personal command. It will prove disastrous for the Tsar, as he becomes more and more closely tied to Russian military defeat. At Gallipoli, the Allies land reinforcements at Suvla Bay, but neither they nor a series of fresh attacks by the Anzacs can break the deadlock. Conditions for both sides are terrible. Troops are tormented not only by the enemy, but by heat, flies, and sickness. In the Atlantic, a German U-boat sinks the liner SS Arabic. 44 are lost, including 3 Americans. In response to further US warnings, Germany ends all attacks on passenger ships. On the Western Front, the Allies mount their biggest offensive of the war so far, designed to smash through the front and take pressure off their beleaguered Russian ally. The French attack in the Third Battle of Artois and Second Battle of Champagne.
Switzerland's another one that is neutral, but I mean just surrounded on all sides. And they're in a world war. It's so hard to imagine that trying to remain neutral, you're going to be left unscathed. People are just going to walk over you to, achieve whatever success militarily they have to.
British, with the help of poison gas, attack at Los. Despite initial gains, the attacks soon get bogged down. with enormous losses on all sides.
Jesus.
Allied troops land at Salonika in Greece to open a new front against the Central Powers and bring aid to Serbia. But the Allies are too late. Bulgaria joins the Central Powers, and their joint offensive overruns Serbia in 2 months. That winter, the remnants of the Serbian army escape through the Albanian mountains. Their losses are horrific. By the end of the war, a third of Serbia's army has been killed, the highest proportion of any nation. Fierce fighting continues on the Italian front, as Italian troops launch the third and fourth battles of the Isonzo. Austro-Hungarian forces, though outnumbered, are dug in on the high ground and impossible to dislodge. In the Middle East, a British advance on Baghdad is blocked by Turkish forces at the Battle of Ctesiphon, 25 miles south of the city. The British withdraw to Kut, where they are besieged. The Allies abandon the Gallipoli campaign. 83,000 troops are secretly evacuated without alerting Turkish forces. Not a man is lost. It's one of the best executed plans of the war. The campaign has cost both sides 250,000 casualties.
God damn.
1915 is a bad year for the Allies. Enormous losses for no tangible gains. But there is no talk of peace. Instead, all sides prepare for even bigger offensives in 1916, with new tactics developed from earlier failures. All sides still believe a decisive battlefield victory is within grasp. Epic History TV relies on the support of...
It's just sad when you're just hearing all these deaths, and you're just like, you know, a quarter of a million people dead here, and 250,000 people. It's just like, it's just thrown about like it's nothing. Yeah, just 200. It was 250,000 people died for them, and then 250,000 people died for them, and then 200,000 died and were surrendered here, and then it's just like, I know. I want to see total number of military and civilian casualties in World War I was around 40 million. And I know World War II had more because it had more civilian death count. 40 to 50 million people died, and I've seen up to 70 million. World wars are no joke. Especially at this time, man. You get these weapons that, you know, are advanced for that time, and they're just, I mean, they're just wiping each other out. Sad. Alright. I'm going to end this here. I think I'm going to jump into 1916 next, and then I'm going to call it a day. Alright. This video will be up tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and then I'm dropping one of these every day this week in the morning, followed by, really right now, so far, a requested video by Sam. So, I know this video probably won't get any views, but it should. It's sad. Anyways, I'm going to end this one here. Wrong button. Have a good day. Have a good night.